Reliant on this. There we go. Steph fixed it. Echo, echo, echo.
Test, test, test. Yep.
Taking orders from the media. Ready to go? Well, good morning, everyone. I'm joined here today by our candidate for Weyburn Big Muddy, our Saskatchewan Party candidate, Dustin Duncan, as well as our candidate for the constituency of Humboldt, Donna Harpower. We also have with us today our candidate for Regina Gardner Park, and Jean Makowski, and of course Gary Gruel, the Saskatchewan Party candidate for right here, Regina Northeast, and this is his campaign offices, and we welcome you all here this morning. The Saskatchewan Party's top priority is to build a strong Saskatchewan by ensuring a strong economic recovery post the COVID-19 pandemic. That recovery is now underway. It began back in May when we began reopening our economy here in Saskatchewan. Thousands of people have now returned to work. Businesses across this province are creating new jobs, and Saskatchewan now has the lowest unemployment rate in the nation of Canada. We want to continue that economic momentum. We're going to get to this. We want to continue that economic momentum while working to make life more affordable for everyone. That's why yesterday we announced a new home renovation tax credit that will create jobs, while at the same time it will save homeowners up to $2,100 of the cost of their home renovations. So today I'm pleased to announce another initiative that will boost economic growth, and it will help families and businesses across the province. If the Saskatchewan Party has the privilege of forming government once again, we will provide a one-year 10% rebate on electricity charges for all SaskPower customers. We're going to give everyone a break on their power bill to drive Saskatchewan's recovery and to make life more affordable for Saskatchewan families. This is a 10% rebate, and it will apply to everyone. Residential customers, farm customers, industry, business, and institutions such as schools, hospitals, universities, and skating rinks. The rebate will be applied automatically to all SaskPower bills for 12 months, beginning this December. The average residential customer will save over $215 over the course of the year. The typical farm customer would save about $845. The City of Saskatoon, as well as the City of Swift Current, they operate their own electrical utilities. They buy electricity from SaskPower and then they sell it to their residents. SaskPower will provide the 10% rebate to the two utilities so that they can pass it on to customers in both Saskatoon and Swift Current. The money people will save across this province can then be put back into our economy and into our economic recovery, providing a strong tailwind for that recovery in the months ahead. The rebate will cost about $262 million, and it will be the government that pays for the program through the General Revenue Fund, not SaskPower. There will be no impact to SaskPower's debt load. Let's not forget this, that during a pandemic, the Trudeau government is taking money out of Saskatchewan families' pockets by imposing a costly and ineffective carbon tax on Saskatchewan residents. This increases your SaskPower bills, and they are actually increasing that carbon tax from $30 to $40 on January the 1st. So our federal government in this nation is actually increasing taxes right in the middle of a global pandemic. Let's not also forget that when this carbon tax was first introduced, Ryan Miley said that he applauds the Trudeau carbon tax, and he called our fight against this ineffective tax a pointless crusade. So there's a clear difference in this upcoming election. Justin Trudeau and Ryan Miley want to increase your tax burden right in the middle of a pandemic, and the Saskatchewan Party wants to give you a break on your SaskPower bill. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the right time to provide financial support to workers, to businesses, and to families in this province. This rebate on electricity bills in our province will do just that. It will put money in people's pockets, it will support Saskatchewan's recovery, and it will help ensure that we can build a strong Saskatchewan with a strong economy, with strong communities, most importantly, with strong families. That's our plan for a strong Saskatchewan. Be pleased to take any questions that you might have. I guess you can go to the mic, right? Now that we have a mic working.
What would you say to those who might argue that this is just the guys have to buy?
Sorry, I can't hear. Is that mic on?
Maybe. What would you say to the criticism that this is just you guys trying to buy votes?
This is an opportunity, I think, for us to put forward and really to put money into Saskatchewan families' pockets. Ultimately, everyone in this province pays a power bill, and this is a very equitable way to ensure that we are not only providing that opportunity for those dollars to go back into our economy and foster the economic recovery that we are working towards here in Saskatchewan, across Canada, and around the globe, but it also speaks to the affordability for our Saskatchewan families, reducing the dollars that they have to pay for their power bill. Sorry. Just throw your mask on the floor.
Just before the campaign started, Ryan Miley also made an affordability promise regarding SGI rebates, and your side criticized that as being reckless, saying that it would drive up the deficit. I don't see how this is different. Can you explain?
Most certainly, this is different. One, this impacts virtually everyone. Everyone pays a power bill. Not everyone licenses a vehicle. Two, this works within our plan to balance the budget by 2024. We do have a plan to get back to balance by 2024 in this province. That is rare among any government across this nation right now, and it's most certainly rare among the two parties that are vying for seats in the legislature in this election.
You've said before that you have very kind of limited fiscal room to make promises here, given the major deficit that we're facing. I'm wondering, as we deal with multiple crises in this province right now, the health crisis, the opioid crisis, the suicide crisis, why is this the best way to spend that limited fiscal room?
This touches everyone. This touches people that rent their homes. This touches people that own their homes. This touches all families across the province. This touches the skating rinks that they take their children to. This touches, obviously, all of the public services that we offer. Everyone pays a power bill in this province. This also touches the business environment that are employing people in our communities, reducing their costs and creating further opportunity for them to spend more in this economic recovery, further opportunity for them to build throughout this economic recovery, as well as further opportunity for them to hire additional people. We are focused very much in this election campaign and in the months ahead on the opportunity that we have to foster an economic recovery here post-COVID-19 in the province, as well as ensuring that we are enhancing the affordability for families in the province. Listen, we do have limited fiscal capacity in this province. That's why we have a plan to balance the budget in 2024. The commitments that we make today and throughout this campaign will work within that plan so that we can balance the budget on behalf of the people that we represent. What we saw yesterday, I think, was indicative of what you will see throughout this campaign and what you would see should there ever be an NDP government in this province. On the first day of the campaign, you saw a Saskatchewan Party come forward with affordability measures for families in a tax incentive, and you saw an NDP come forward with a tax hike. You saw them now come forward with over $1 billion in promised spending with absolutely no plan on how they would pay for that spending that they have committed to. That's one significant difference that we are seeing in this campaign.
Just one more quick follow-up before I let this go. You talked about the tax hike that we heard from the NDP yesterday, but this is a wealth tax on 1% of the population, less than 1% of the population, those making more than $15 million. I'm wondering why you oppose that.
The tax hike that the NDP proposed yesterday, they spent already this morning. They had over $1 billion in promises prior to that. They are going to have to expand their tax hike to all Saskatchewan people. That is their MO, most certainly. I think the difference between the two parties yesterday was very, very significant, and I think it's indicative of where the parties intend to take this province. One is going to tax and spend. The NDP will tax and spend, and this party, the Saskatchewan Party, is looking at how we can support our economic recovery, how the Saskatchewan Party can support more affordability for families throughout the province. Yesterday's announcement spoke to both of those themes. Today's announcement most certainly speaks to family affordability, but it also speaks to the opportunity for us to further enhance and foster the economic recovery that we need in this province.
Can SaskPower afford this for 1 year? And are you concerned about the effect that COVID-19 may have on SaskPower's revenues? This money will be forwarded to SaskPower from the General Revenue Fund. I mentioned that in my notes. So SaskPower will be whole throughout this. This is an initiative, as I said, to increase the affordability for families here in the province. It'll have no impact on SaskPower. It's also an initiative that will impact businesses that hire people, businesses that invest and spend in our community, and businesses that build in our communities. And really, this is an initiative that fits into the theme of where we are going throughout the course of this campaign and where we need to go as a province as we find ourselves what will hopefully be on the backside of this global pandemic. The NDP announced a plan to reduce class size and deal with composition this morning. I'm wondering if that's in your plans at all during the campaign and what your response would be to that. Well, that's nothing new that the NDP is talking about class sizes. They, again, have no plan on how they would actually achieve what they have committed to. I would point back to, I think it was just over $100 million they had said they would put into class sizes. That's already been done for this year with $155 million jointly provided to the education sector this year by the provincial government, the federal government. We've had the opportunity this year to employ over 600 additional staff in our schools across the province. That includes teachers, that includes custodial staff. And listen, the commitment to education by the Saskatchewan Party government has been very strong over the course of the last decade. We are building schools. We are 57 new schools. We are hiring teachers. We are hiring staff to put in those schools. And we are doing so because we have additional kids here in the province, because people have chosen to make Saskatchewan their home. This is the opportunity we have as we find ourselves through this global pandemic, is the opportunity to recover and ultimately grow our economy, grow our opportunity, and reinvest those dollars right back into the very schools that are operating and our children are attending in our communities. That is what we've done for the last 13 years. That is what we're asking Saskatchewan people to do for the next 4.
Do you accept the court ruling from Justice Graham Mitchell that found the Wascana Park bylaws unconstitutional in the matter involving Tristan DeRocher, or do you plan to appeal that?
I believe the PCC is making some decisions with respect to that ruling. When a judge rules, everyone has options whether or not they would appeal that ruling. It would be a decision that the Provincial Capital Commission would make. But
you were the Premier, and you're running to be the Premier again, so what is your position on that? Do you agree with Justice Mitchell's ruling, and do you plan to direct or want to see new bylaws written to accommodate for those kind of ceremonies and those kind of protests?
The ruling that I had read was to relook at some of the bylaws in the province to ensure that they are, accommodating for all in the province, and I think that's a fair comment to make, and that's something that if we form government again, I don't think we would shy away from looking at the bylaws throughout the park.
So, having said that, do you want to see the ruling appealed, or do you accept that you should take a look at those bylaws and make it more accommodating for all kinds of people?
Potentially both.
I guess why won't you say? I mean, I know you watch very closely with the Supreme Court case when it comes to the carbon tax. So where is your position on this one when this is the second time we've seen a peaceful protest and your government kicked them off the lawn?
Peaceful but illegal.
That's not what this justice found, sir.
No, what the justice has ruled on this. We now actually have dueling opinions when it comes to what justices have ruled with respect to some of the protests that we've had. As you say, peaceful, but one judge viewed them as being illegal, one judge viewed them as being not illegal. So the PCC will be looking at that. I'm sure they'll be consulting with justice. But it's very possible that there may be an appeal that would come to that particular opinion, judge's opinion, ruling, given there are some dueling opinions there. So, I won't speak to what that is right now, but it's also very possible that a government post October the 26th, whoever that may be, if it was the Saskatchewan party, that we may have a look at our bylaws as well. It's never a bad time to look at updating bylaws such as the bylaws within the park of the PCC. You compare this to the Supreme Court case that we fought last week, I suppose, against the federal government in the Supreme Court of Canada over the federally imposed carbon tax. Quite a different situation when you look at the number of provinces and the number of people that those provinces represent that had intervened on Saskatchewan's side in what many Canadians agreed to be an ineffective tax and really a cost on families. And a tax, I think, that is relevant to our announcement here today, as it is a tax that is increasing on January the 1st. It's a tax that has been imposed on Saskatchewan hardworking families. And this is a very large point of differentiation between the Saskatchewan NDP and the Saskatchewan Party. We have vowed that we would fight that tax with every legal tool that we have, including and up to bringing it to the Supreme Court of Canada, which we have done with the support of the majority of provinces in the nation of Canada. And you have the Saskatchewan NDP who support Justin Trudeau and support his carbon tax being imposed on the people of this province. We have today an announcement where the Saskatchewan Party is reducing costs to Saskatchewan families. Yesterday we saw the Saskatchewan NDP that is committing to increasing taxes on Saskatchewan families.
So if you do form government, will you accept the ruling and rewrite park bylaws or direct the PCC to rewrite park bylaws to allow for overnight camping and Indigenous ceremonies?
Yeah, well, if we were to fully accept the ruling, then that would be part of it, is to look at the bylaws that we have there. But as I said, that may be something that we do, but there may be an appeal as well, as we have dueling rulings at the moment.
If I could go back to the rebate, just wondering how you'll apply that rebate for Swift Current and Saskatoon power customers that get it from local suppliers and not from SaskPower.
Right. What we will do is SaskPower will be providing a 10% grant on to those folks' power bills that live to the power utilities in Saskatoon and Swift Current, understanding that they do purchase their power from SaskPower and then resell it to the people that live in those two communities. So we'll be providing them with a 10% grant. SaskPower will be providing them with a 10% grant, and the expectation is that will be passed on then to customers in those communities. So it'll be fairly seamless. A 10% reduction in your SaskPower bills starting this December for everyone across Saskatchewan. And that is why we chose this method, is because of the great uniformity in that it touches everyone. Everyone has a power bill.
And forgive me if it's already been asked, but is this something that you would look at exploring, depending on how long the pandemic goes, for past one-year program?
Well, we're looking at it for 1 year right now. We're looking at it for that time period for two reasons. One is to increase the affordability for families. Listen, we understand that families have been greatly impacted financially over the course of the last 6 months due to COVID-19. And so we want to do what we can as a government of Saskatchewan, potentially as a government of Saskatchewan, if we would receive their support in this election campaign, do what we can do to support them financially. And as we said, this is a very broad-reaching mechanism, and everyone has a power bill that they pay. Second is, we feel this will also free up some dollars that will then be invested back into our community in whatever way a family chooses. That will help foster our economic recovery. If you look at where people are going to be, Saskatchewan people, over the course of the next 12 months,
Much of that time is going to be in our province, as interprovincial travel is, greatly reduced. International travel is reduced to virtually zero. So Saskatchewan people are going to be out and about in the province here over the course of the next 12 months, and we most certainly believe that those dollars will then be invested in Saskatchewan businesses and communities right across our great province.
I know you touched on it in the release, but could you elaborate a little bit as to how it will work for net metering customers?
Do you want to answer that, Dustin?
Yeah, basically, so net metering customers, when they do use electricity from the grid, basically on their bill it will show that they pay the same rate for power in terms of that energy charge, and so the rate for that energy charge would be reduced by 10%.
So if there were months where they were creating a surplus of power, then that discount would be applied to subsequent months as on the whole for 12-month period?
So what happens is, if in the event that somebody does create more power that they can carry over, that carries over as a credit, but you still will pay as a part of, because you will be using electricity in the nighttime, days like today where there isn't really a lot of sunshine here in southern Saskatchewan. So that rate that you're charged for your power, just like everybody else, it still applies to every bill. It just depends on how much power you're creating that offsets that bill that you do have. But on that actual rate that you're paying, just like everybody else, that rate will be reduced by 10%.
And when we look back to the decision, I don't know who's best to answer this question, but when we look back to when the net metering program had to be capped because of some more uptake than expected and some of the financial implications around that. Can you differentiate for people who may think, well, how come you didn't have money for that, but you have money for this? And how do those two decisions, both related to SaskPower, relate to one another?
I would just say first, if you are a net metering customer, the 10% incentive will be on your usage, not on the offsetting producing power that you have. So this, I think, speaks to the fairness of the program and how equitable it is, in that it touches all families. It touches everyone in this province, as we all pay a power bill, which I think addresses the second question, equitability. What we are looking for is a response to the global pandemic here in Saskatchewan that will increase the affordability for all families, not just those that are participating in the net metering program. We want this to touch all families across the province, and there's no better way than to touch them through reducing their power bills here in the province, in particular at a time when we see a federal government supported by the Saskatchewan NDP imposing and increasing a carbon tax on those very same power bills. And I would urge Saskatchewan residents, post-December, if we are fortunate enough to form government in this province, to have a look at your Prime Minister Justin Trudeau carbon tax that will be on your bill versus the incentive that will be coming from the Saskatchewan Party government if we are able to form government on behalf of the people here in this province. Second to that is the economic stimulus. These dollars will be invested back in Saskatchewan businesses, in Saskatchewan communities right across the province, all 200 million plus of them.
What would you say about people who criticize the cost of taking this issue of the carbon tax to court?
I would say that this is absolutely necessary. You have a federal government that is moving into a provincial area of jurisdiction. You have a federal government that is moving forward with an ideological, not an effective policy, the policy of carbon taxation. It doesn't reduce emissions. It only reduces jobs. It should be challenged in every court possible in the land. Saskatchewan has led that challenge right to the Supreme Court of Canada. And I would just say this, it was supported by the majority of provinces. The majority of provinces intervened on Saskatchewan's behalf, and I would tell me that the majority of Canadians are not interested in a federally imposed carbon tax that doesn't reduce emissions, just reduces opportunity for that next generation. We have a better emissions plan in this province, an emissions plan that I think is real, and an emissions plan, quite honestly, that Canada is going to need, Saskatchewan's innovation, Saskatchewan's opportunity, if they want to even come close to achieving some of the targets and some of the goals that they have.
This morning, the federal government announced a $10 billion infrastructure bank. Ralph Goodale has talked this morning about it's going to be important for the provincial government to apply quickly for this.
Yep.
Is that something that your government will apply for Lake Diefenbaker project?
Yeah, we had a heads up on this morning. This is, I hope
I would hope this is positive news. There is some dollars that are earmarked for the irrigation project, irrigation in general. We have a significant irrigation investment that will be coming here in the province of Saskatchewan. And so this is, I think, a positive step. They have said that it would be an opportunity to apply for 50% funding for projects such as that. So we will be looking at the details of this very soon. I hope that it is an upfront and direct grant to the project, not a loan through the infrastructure bank. Saskatchewan doesn't need access to capital. What we need is actual support from the federal government. So that would be a very important question that we are asking the federal government right now. Is this an actual 50% grant towards the project, or is this a loan through the infrastructure bank for 50% of the project cost? So there's some unanswered questions with respect to the program, but I would say in general terms, this is a positive step for some of the investments that we are looking at here in the province.
When that project was announced, there was a lot of talk about some of this will be able to happen right away, some of it will depend on federal government money. Do you think this might be that money to help take the project all the way? If
it's an upfront grant, I would hope that this is the federal government's commitment to a project like the irrigation project that we have, the vision that the Lake Diefenbaker project had some 50 years ago, the opportunity that this irrigation investment could provide, not just in agriculture and really changing the crops and the value of the crops that we grow in those particular areas where we'd have access to this water, but the opportunity that it would provide to communities in and around Saskatoon, Moose Jaw, Regina, and all along the way in the way of value-added food processing. And adding value now to foods, to crops that we currently don't grow here in the province. And I would just go a step further that, other industries require water security as well, and Saskatchewan has been well served by the natural resource industries that we have, the manufacturing industries that we have, all of which require water security to invest, to provide jobs here in Regina, most evidently. The water that Everaz Steel uses, the water that our potash mines use, they need water security in order to you make the investments for future opportunities for our children's generation and beyond. So this is a very important project, not only for the agricultural opportunities that it brings, not only for the ag value added opportunities that it brings, but for the broader opportunities that we have to attract investment and create employment in communities right across this province. This is a very positive investment. I'm happy that the federal government has identified that it is a positive investment. We're hopeful that today's announcement is actual grant cash to the project, not access to an infrastructure bank loan. And those are some of the questions that we'll be asking. And if it is a program that is beneficial to moving this project along, we most certainly will be applying, and will be applying sooner rather than later.
Forgive me if you've already answered this, but how is this rebate going to reach people who don't directly pay their power bills, like people who might pay an apartment, a manager who might pay that bill for them?
So the bulk of apartments, this is why we chose this, is because of the equitability that we believe is here. The bulk of apartment owners we've seen across the province do, in fact, pay their power bill. If they do not pay that power bill, we would ask the owners, the renters, the people renting those properties, that they treat their tenants equitably. This is intended to get to all Saskatchewan people, to get to all Saskatchewan families. That's why we chose this mechanism. This is a mechanism that touches the vast majority, if not all, of the people across the province, as well as some of the community recreational infrastructure that we all utilize as well. This is a good program. It's an equitable program, and it's a program that we believe will put money in families' pockets right across the province.
It is something that you say will be applied automatically. So why choose something that might, benefit people who might not need? I feel like the struggle to pay a power bill is probably not the same, on one end of the spectrum as the other. So why choose something that benefits everybody equally when, some people might not need this rebate as much as others? Well,
this is equitable, and I think as we find our way through this pandemic, this again approaches both of the priorities that we have put forward. It approaches increasing the affordability for families here in the province by providing them with dollars off of their power bill each and every month, dollars throughout the year. But it also, is going to provide many of our recreational facilities with a lower power bill, which will be an opportunity to ensure that they are more viable throughout the year. skating rinks, for example, where our kids are skating, but a number of recreational facilities that also have a power bill. And yes, there are businesses, retail and industrial businesses, that will have a break on their power bill, but these are the very economic engines of our communities, and these are the places where we go to work, and we want to do everything that we can to encourage those businesses and our families across the province to build. We want to encourage them to spend in their community, and we want to encourage those very businesses. We want to provide the opportunity where they can further hire people. We are very close to getting back to our pre-pandemic employment rates. We have the lowest unemployment rate in Canada. The recovery is starting here in Saskatchewan, and we want to do everything that we can to foster that recovery, to get our Saskatchewan people back to work, and get back to growing and achieving the targets that we had put out in the growth plan.
I'm wondering why, if the goal is to just get money into people's hands in the simplest way possible, you chose to funnel taxpayer money through SaskPower. I mean, it's a complicated system. You need to assume that Saskatoon and Swift Current follow suit. Why not just send everybody checks?
What we did, we felt this was the best way to provide dollars to families. You'll go back a number of elections in Alberta where what you had mentioned what did happen with the Ralph Bucks. That wasn't a consideration. What the consideration here was, how would we be able to provide this incentive to really create added affordability for families. But in the same way, those dollars are going to churn through our community. They are going to help us with our economic recovery. We understand that families have had some challenges, some financial challenges over the course of the last 6 months. But we must also remember that we are starting to recover in this province. We're very proud of the fact that we shut down less of Saskatchewan than any other province across the nation. 87% of people were able to continue working throughout our approach to the pandemic, and we are now leading the nation in getting our Saskatchewan families back to work. We can be very proud of that as a province. The reason that we have the opportunity to start that recovery and continue with that recovery is because of what we are doing to address this virus in the first place. So this is an added incentive for people in this province to increase the affordability of their families. I think this is very much along the same themes with the announcement that we had yesterday, where people will have the opportunity to do a home renovation and have a tax incentive there that as well will get people back to work in our community. We're very focused on increasing the affordability for families and enhancing the opportunity to continue with a strong economic recovery here in Saskatchewan.
The only real, from the perspective of the ratepayer, the only difference I see between this and sending checks to everyone is that it operates as a subsidy for power usage. Aren't you just operating a reverse carbon tax that essentially makes it cheaper to use energy?
A reverse carbon tax would be good. They should take away the carbon tax that is there, that is supported by Ryan Miley and Justin Trudeau, imposed by our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And I think this is, again, indicative to the difference between the Saskatchewan NDP and the Saskatchewan Party. You have a Saskatchewan NDP that supports higher power bills on Saskatchewan residents, and you today have a Saskatchewan Party that supports reducing those power bills.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks.